Hello, my name is Sterling Moses, and this is my research paper. So this is my introduction. The research question that I had for this paper was, do youth diversion programs work on reducing recidivism? What exactly are diversion programs? So basically, when a younger kid commits their first crime or a minor crime, they can either be referred to by a police officer or a judge to a diversion program where they don't have to go through the juvenile court system. They they are going to be they can be charged and then go through this diversion program, and then all of their charges will be dismissed, or they can just they can go before they are charged and they won't have to deal with going through the juvenile court system. Basically, the reason is because should a juvenile be charged over something so small, especially if it is their only first or even their second offense? Of course, this one small offense could lead to more offenses and eventually lead up to some maybe major offenses, but the developmental perspective in juvenile justice says that majority of youths grow out of the type of behavior, and they usually phase it out in their adolescence, which is actually quite normal to go through, and is in the process of learning and stuff. There are more to youth diversion programs than just preventing recidivism. They were created to provide younger kids with help that they might not get anywhere else, like school or home. These programs help them with school, with their own problems that they might have, like anger issues maybe. There are classes that they can take. It helps decrease the socialization that they have with other known offenders their age that might not seek help. And it also helps to reduce the stigma that is put on these kids, which is another part of the reason why these programs are made, is to help reduce that stigma, because once a child goes into the criminal justice system, the juvenile system, they are stigmatized, and it's kind of hard to get rid of that stigma. Looking back on some past studies, there were 2 done, and the results were actually very conflicting. One found that youth diversion programs were very effective at reducing recidivism, whilst the other found that there were no effects on recidivism from youth diversion programs. The specific program that I will be researching in this paper is the Gwinnett County Youth Diversion Program. This program mainly works with first-time juvenile offenders and helps them to avoid the juvenile court system, like I mentioned before. It also helps to positively influence these kids and helps to give them a better life, give them tools, and help them learn. The main goal of this program, like I said, is to help them create a better life and basically diverge them from the offending behavior. So with these programs, the juvenile has to admit guilt to be able to go into these programs. That's their way of them taking responsibility for what they have done. So they have to admit guilt. It's not a formal admission of guilt per se, but they do have to admit guilt, and once they admit guilt, then they can go to these programs. So next is my literature review. So the main issue that I found with this type of research is whether or not that they are truly effective because of all the mixed results that I found. Some studies, like in Thomas Maroney's study, his article is called Recidivism Measurement and Sanction Effectiveness in Youth Diversion Programs. His research showed that the youth offender's completion of a diversion program was a significant indicator of whether or not a youth offender will recidivate or not. He found that those who did not complete the program or chose to not to participate had higher recidivism than those that did complete the program. Yet, to contradict that finding, he also found that specific sanctions used by diversion programs had no significant impact on recidivism. Diversion programs have become the most common tool for juveniles that have been charged with minor offenses or first-time offenses. And programs include teen courts or drug courts, which are very common. And then punishments, like I mentioned above, include community service, random drug testing, curfews, boot camp, apology letters, keeping up with good grades, random drug test. Oh, I said that already. Sorry. Mental health, substance abuse treatment, all of those. And a lot of times, these juveniles will work also at these programs. Okay, so there are two different types of diversion programs. Caution or warning programs, which are less intimidating, and the main goal is to divert the juvenile away from the criminal justice system by using a warning or formal caution. The other program is the formal diversion program or the intervention program. These programs require that the juvenile admit to their offenses and will have to follow some type of set program. So there, like I mentioned above, there is a stigma. So I've already mentioned that, so I'm just going to continue. Research against diversion program. So some authors have mentioned that these diversion programs could positively affect these kids' lives, but only if these programs are used appropriately. If these programs are taken advantage of, it could cause these youth to continue with offender behavior and cost not only the juvenile and their family, but also the government a lot of money. One of the most common side effects that could happen with these programs is the discriminatory factor. Police officers are often influenced by their own biases. We see the results of that in today's society with adult victims. A child's race or economic status could affect whether a police officer wants to refer them to a diversion program or send them straight to juvenile detention. And then, of course, this can lead to a disproportionate representation of the diversion program and the effect of recidivism. How to address the issues in this research. How to address these contradictions. Not only will we focus on recidivism, but we will in the research they focus on the demographics as well, looking at the child's race and socioeconomic status and seeing if there are patterns. Like, for example, if we find that there is a common race among the diversion programs and there is more of one race than the other, could be a factor of these discriminatory factors. And like I already mentioned, the program that I'm doing is the Gwinnett County Diversion Program. All right, so methods, setting. So my setting is going to be at these 3 places. So basically, the first place is where they're called safety first classes and smart classes. The second location is where all other classes are held, like stay in school, shoplifting awareness, anger management, and self-esteem. And then the third location is where we could find potential youth that did not choose the route of a divergent program or were not referred to a divergent program. And we could also find youth that were charged and they do decide to go to the divergent program. The sample, so who is being sampled? In this study, there were, the population will consist of course, juvenile offenders. There would be a total of 100 participants in this study. 50 of the participants will be a part of a divergent program. They can either be court-ordered by a judge, a police officer to join a divergent program. They can be sentenced by their parents, or they can decide by themselves that they want to join a divergent program. The other 50 juveniles will be ones that decide against a divergent program or were not referred to one. The maximum age is 21. So sample selection will be chosen from the Gwinnett County Justice Administration Center, the Gwinnett County Jail Detention Center, and lastly the Gwinnett County Juvenile Court. Type of sampling that will be done is the availability convenience sample. Due to the confidentiality and the delicacy of the different types of situations for these children and families, there will be no pushing or forcing these families. They will decide only on their own whether or not they would like to participate in the research. To make things lighthearted and easier for everyone, flyers will be handed out, most likely to the parents of the kids. My research design for this research, it has been decided that the longitudinal design would work best, so that we could look over a longer period of time to see if this program actually worked. The procedure, as mentioned above, flyers will be handed out with hoping for 100 participants, and then we will have an initial interview where we will give them a questionnaire, and then come back 5 years, so do the same thing, and then 10 years, and then that will be our final result, and we can see whether or not this program helped them or not. Instrumentation. What are the variables? The variables are recidivism and diversion programs. The dependent variable in this case would be recidivism, which will be found by using direct data accumulated by the research itself. The independent variable in this case would be diversion programs, and the study will be studying the diversion programs in Gwinnett County and Georgia. How will they be measured? The effect of the diversion program will be measured by the questionnaire that the parent and child will fill out in the initial meeting, the 5-year evaluation, and then the 10-year initial review. The questionnaire consists of open-ended questions due to the uniqueness of each individual and their families. By having open-ended question participants put in more detail most of the time, which helps to better understand the overall research. And then last but not least, how will the research impact the criminal justice policy and practice? This study will greatly contribute to the criminal justice policy and practice. The youth is such an important part of everyday generation. It is important to help them grow and learn, because eventually there are going to be adults running this country. Children are so fragile because they're still learning and growing and trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do with their life. Giving them the best tools can only help impact their lives in the most positive way possible. Having a program where kids can turn to when they make a mistake or follow the wrong crowd is a great way to help. These kids are at an age in life where they can be easily molded, so having a place that can help teach them wrong from right and how to handle certain behaviors and situations can benefit them. Hopefully this study can get us one step closer to a more concrete answer as to whether or not these programs work. Thank you.